welcome to another episode of Somewhat Accurate History, a podcast where we vaguely remember the history of various countries. Apparently, Wales is not a country.
Hello and welcome to Somewhat Accurate History. Or, I guess, let me tell you about. I really don't know. This one's on the border between the two. Aleks, I'm just going to say this right off the top of this episode. The desert sucks. It's hot. It's full of sand. It's got those really tough ladybugs who steal your items in Chapter 3 of Bug Fables, The Everlasting Sapling, now on Switch, PS4, Xbox, and PC.
Off to a good start with this one, I see. Immediately shilling Bug Fables again.
Within a minute. There's like nothing cool in the desert, right?
Wait, rocks. In the real desert or Bug Fables desert?
No, Bug Fables desert is super cool and badass because it's where you get the run ability, and it's very easy to soft lock the game in there.
Nice.
But yeah, the desert in real life is fucking lame. It's just got like rocks and cactuses and like cow skulls. I guess those are kind of cool. It's also got secret Nazi lairs, time machines, and FBI counterintelligence tactics. So, Aleks, this is the 1930s. We're taking it back now.
All right.
1930s, by the way, is only 90 years ago. No, wait, no, it's not 90. Hold on.
I mean, 1930...
Okay, I'm not a math scientist, okay? It's 2020.
Yeah,
when is 1930s?
If it was 2030, it would have been 100 years ago, Ted. Think. Come on, think. It's 90 years. You're right.
I'm a podcast. Oh, I'm right? Okay, never mind then.
Oh, just keep going.
So the U.S. was going through the Great Depression, right? Unlike now, when we didn't go through anything like that.
No, not at all. We're fine.
So people were turning to weird ways to make a living. You know, not like now. Okay,
anyway, so 90 years ago is basically the same as today.
So this guy, his name is Frank Kritzer. He's a German immigrant who was in the Merchant Marine, so he was like in the Navy and stuff. He's heading west into the Mojave to prospect for gold. He didn't have much luck at all. His funds ran dry basically immediately, and he had pretty much nothing. He was like a Minecraft man. All he had was his pickaxe, his shovel, a bare-bones understanding of the English language, and a 1917 Ford Model T. That's all he had in the desert.
Just like Steve from Minecraft, he had his Model T ready to roll.
At this time, most of the West was uninhabited, by which I mean, you know, there's no white people living there. So he heads out and discovers Giant Rock, a boulder 7 stories tall and weighing 16,000 tons. Also, Aleks, I know that you can't see this, but when I wrote the word boulder, I made it bold, and I think that's kind of fun.
Okay. So I have to ask about Giant Rock. So it's not a mountain. It's not like a hill. It is just a gigantic, like, circular rock, right?
It is literally just a... It's not just a rock. It's a boulder. No, wait, fuck, I flipped it back. It's the other way around for SpongeBob. This is your specialty.
Boulder. It's a rock. A rock.
A giant rock.
The pioneers used to ride these babies for miles, and it's in great shape.
It's just a big rock. It's the world's... It was the world's largest freestanding rock until a bunch of shamans made it split in half. But don't worry about that.
Wait, what?
So Kritzer, inspired by the desert tortoise, which he said that in like one interview, and every single source I looked at kept bringing that up. He decides to stake his claim there, right? He's gonna start looking for gold in this area, and he's gonna build his house right underneath this giant rock. Takes his pickaxe, takes his shovel, takes a suspicious amount of dynamite, and blows up a spacious 2-room apartment underneath the fucking rock.
Oh.
I was going to cut this originally because I was trying to trim the fat for this because this was a wonky episode, but this is cool enough that I want to keep it in here in its entirety. He made a functional air conditioning system in the middle of the fucking Mojave.
Oh, what, just like using fucking like tunnels and shit?
Yeah, he dug a tunnel underneath the rock that went from the other side all the way over to him. Which, by the way, I did the math, and his house underneath this rock was bigger than like where I live now.
I was gonna say, is this how that one fucking underground hotel started out in the desert? This guy is this the Mr. Underground Hotel man?
Honestly, I'd believe it because you don't have to pay for air conditioning if you're underground in the desert because it's such like flat earth that heat will go into it, right? But then once you get so deep, I'm not a temperature scientist, but I assume the heat's like, oh no, fuck this, I ain't going in the ground, so it just doesn't go down there. He would just have like a little tunnel, right, that goes under the rock, and he'd have a pipe in there, and it would just pipe in the cold air from underneath.
Oh shit!
And if it got too cold, he just put his coat on it, and then he was fine.
I got it. I know exactly what he's doing. He's living like Patrick Star is.
I got that Patrick Star lifestyle.
Under a rock with all his sand furniture.
He to get water, right? Because you're in the desert, you need water. It would sometimes rain in the desert, right? So he set up like this series of little pipes to collect water off the that condensed on the rock's surface in the mornings, because the rock is so fucking big that he could actually get a decent amount of water from it. But, you know, it doesn't rain or get cold in the desert that often. So he still needed to, like, buy water in town and also be able to get to town because he was 30 miles away from it. So he had one neighbor who lived 5 miles away. He drives up there and asks to borrow a leveler tool. His neighbor's name was, like, Charlie. And I don't think he knew he was a neighbor, because this man walking up to him speaking in broken German English is asking for metal. He doesn't know what's going on, so he just gives him a huge lump of metal. It's like 1,000 fucking pounds just to get him off his land.
All right.
So he hooks it up to his Ford Model T, which, by the way, is one of those cars you fucking crank to start.
Well, it was like the 30s.
He takes it out there. He's in the desert. He puts this fucking +10 Titanite greatsword and drags it behind his car. And he makes 5 roads. He makes one to his best friend over here and his fucking neighbor. So Giant Rock is like the center of like a spider web, right?
Uh-huh.
He's got one road going to his neighbor, one road going to town, one road going, or 2 roads going to like nearby mines.
How long did this take? He's just setting up an entire fucking complex here. What is he doing? Why is he doing this again? I forgot. Gold. That's right?
Yeah, he wants to make it so that he can easily travel around. So the last one he makes is he's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna do something nice, and he paves this nice road that goes directly to a huge military base.
Oh, okay.
That's going to cause problems. So he's got his roads, right? But how's he supposed to make money to actually buy the water? Get a job in town? That's outrageous, Aleks. Instead, he's going to open an airport.
Okay.
Also, I almost forgot to mention this. I looked on modern day Google Maps at the military training base, which was still around, and according to a 5-star Google review, it has really good choco tacos but smells like piss.
The base?
The military base, yes.
Do they let you in there to buy fucking tacos?
No, dude, it was you're not like stuck in the military for your entire life, Aleks. You get out at some point and then you can shitpost on the internet. I don't know if you just thought like you're in the military, you're just stuck there like Spartans forever.
I just the idea of an army guy reviewing his own base to shitpost about it didn't cross my mind, so I thought it was just I thought it was a civvy just dropping it up there, just hey, yeah, can I get a fucking choco taco?
You have this German man who barely speaks English drive up to your military base asking for choco tacos.
What the fuck is a choco taco anyway?
Oh, dude, they're fucking awesome. They're like waffle cones that are bent in half like a taco, and they got like ice cream and like chocolate on them. They're fucking awesome.
They serve choco.
They're like $10.
They serve choco fucking tacos at a fucking army base, keeping the troops well fed with ice cream and chocolate.
And piss. So yeah, Kritzer is like, man, there's a lot of airplanes above me. I should open an airport instead of just getting a job in town. So it's not like an entirely bad idea. So you know how Walmarts operate? where they pay a bunch of people a lot of money to find optimal spots. That's kind of what the military does with these airports, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's most optimal for our planes to get here so they can refuel, get going, yada yada yada. So he's like the J.C. Penney to their Walmart. You couldn't park at that one because it's a military base. But he's like, there's people flying all over because this was around the time where you could just buy an airplane and like fly it, and it wasn't a whole big fucking deal, right?
Uh-huh.
So he takes this takes his car out there, levels out this huge like lake bed, and makes an airport so that people can land there. Paints the big giant rock. He paints it bright white. He gets like one of those little fucking little orange windsocks, right? And he gets a very expensive military grade radio. It sets up a bunch of antennas around Giant Rock. This is going to be a problem.
This doesn't sound good.
He actually does like it's pretty okay. You know, people start finding out, oh, there's this airport out here. What, you live under a rock? Dude, that is I'm sorry, I gotta do it like transatlantic. That is poggers. So he gets like interviews. People start making trips just to see this weirdo in the desert, right?
So are people using the airport? Are they landing there yet?
Yes, they are using it.
So how do they just give him like a fee to land?
What he does is that people will show up and he'll be like, yeah, come into my house, enjoy my air conditioning, sit on my furniture that's made out of fucking boxes of dynamite. Here's a cigar. Here's some food. Here's some water. Hey, do you want to buy some supplies? You probably should. I just gave you a bunch of shit from my house. Like, he kind of guilt tripped people into buying shit from him. Then World War II starts, and the government's like, hey, no more recreational flying. We need to keep the skies free. So Kritzer's kind of fucked. That was his only source of income. He still refuses to get a job. So at one point he finally needs to get his car fixed, right? For some reason, like the axis of the car is bent like a V, like it was pulling several thousand pounds of wrought iron through the desert. So he stumbles into town to see the mechanic, and he was making some money, but like the dude lives in a fucking rock in the desert. He can't afford to get his car fixed. It's just not gonna happen. Fortunately, Kritzer becomes friends with the mechanic's nephew, George Van Tassel. George was an airplane engineer for Lockheed, which is now it's Lockheed Martin, but like they make airplanes. He was also a test pilot for Howard Hughes, who was, I think, the first billionaire in the United States. He was the 1930s and 40s Elon Musk. Right?
Okay, I'm sound like a nerd, but wasn't Howard Hughes the guy that fucking Mr. Vegas or whatever, Mr. House was based off of?
Yes. He was also the guy who made the Spruce Goose. So during World War II, you couldn't get metal. Like, that was rationed out. So he wanted to make an airplane that was entirely made out of wood. And it kind of worked. It flew for like 30 minutes, and it was like a giant wooden airplane.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, he was like an airplane guy. He
right.
Like what Elon Musk is to rockets now is what Howard Hughes was to airplanes.
Okay, that makes sense.
So Kritzer and George start hanging out, right? Kritzer tells him all about his plans to expand his desert home and prospect the area. But George is like, oh dude, that's awesome. But that's not really what catches his eye. There's something else about Kritzer that, gets him interested. So George pays for Kritzer's car repair, and they talk into the night. They're hanging out, they're having fun. George would make weekend trips down from Pasadena to Giant Rock to stay over at Kritzer's cave.
All
He would
right.
leave his family behind, which his family, by the way, was his wife, his 3 daughters, his mother-in-law, and his 3 sisters-in-law.
Oh my god, no wonder you wanted to get away so bad. I'm funny.
Yeah. So, Aleks, what do you think they're doing out there? 2 men isolated in the desert, days at a time, hidden from the harsh judging eyes of the 1930s public?
They are throwing sticks of dynamite randomly in the desert and thus pissing off the military.
Word around the office is, you're a crackpot. Why? Yes, I am.
What?
I'm a crackpot, too. We should get together under my boulder sometime. Maybe a little essential oil. 2 crackpots. Oil. That's right, Alex. They were telepathically communicating with aliens from Venus. You guessed in one.
Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry.
So just like Kritzer, I'll go deeper into George in a few minutes here.
Uh
It's the 1940s, World War II is happening, right?
huh.
So Kritzer is like, okay, I'm going to take the money that's left over, and I'm going to invest it into more supplies to actually go out and prospect again. So someone in town gets very suspicious of George and accuses him of being, or not George, Kritzer, and accuses him of being a secret Nazi spy. And I kind of understand where they're coming from, you know? He didn't speak English very well. He lived next to a military base under a rock. He had a really fancy military grade, like ground to air radio. And he would light flares at night that you could see from town. So like if you're some dumb fuck yokel in the 40s, you're not going to think air traffic controller. You're going to think German spy.
I mean, yeah. It is kind of fair for the time at that point.
So one day, 200 pounds of dynamite and a bunch of mining supplies go missing from one of the mines that his road is connected to. So some pearl-clutching busybody calls the fucking FBI on him. The FBI is like, listen, lady, thanks, I guess, but honestly, we got more shit going on right now. We're in the middle of fucking World War II. Maybe you should just have the sheriff go and do this. So they open up like a file on him, right? But then they just write in there, I told this lady to go fuck herself, and then they close the file. So it's not long before the sheriff and his deputies show up at Kritzer's house. And they're like, hey man, what the fuck's going on here, bud? What's with all these antennas? Why are you connected to this radio base? Why don't you speak in English? Kritzer is like, nah man, he refuses to leave his cave. And I've heard like 3 or 4 different stories about what happened, but I think I kind of pieced it together. So Kritzer didn't really understand English, so he probably didn't know what the fuck was happening. The police were acting like they had fucking Adolf himself in there. Either Hitler or Sachs, it doesn't matter. So they decide, okay, how about we flush him out? Instead of going down there and getting shot because we have to go down these stairs, we don't know if this dude's fucking nuts. So they take a 1940s tear gas grenade and throw it in there.
Oh.
Now, I'm going to tell you a little something about dynamite. Brand new dynamite. You could fucking snap it in half. You could shake it around. You could treat it like those little bags that have like the rocks in them that you throw at people's feet and they pop. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't fucking matter. It's dynamite. It's not going to explode. You need an ignition source. Old, cheap dynamite is a different story. So what happens when it's really, really old, or you bought it for cheap, or it's been abused, is that the nitroglycerin leaks out, and then enough kinetic force will just set the fuckers off. So a 1940s tear gas grenade basically just explodes. It's like they flashbanged his ass.
Okay.
So Kritzer is gone. He fucking is much living up to his Minecraft man motif. What happened when the German man was sitting on a box of dynamite and the police threw in a tear gas grenade?
He was destroyed?
He was destroyed.
Okay, did they get in trouble for just blowing a man into smithereens?
Well, one of the police, one of them died. The other one lost a few fingers, and then the other one was fine.
I imagine this explosion was fucking huge. There's a lot of dynamite in there. Is this how the rock broke in half?
No, the rock broke in half because a bunch of shamans danced around it. Don't worry about it. I said not to worry about it, Alex. Now we have to redo the entire fucking podcast episode.
No! Dudecast by Benpaste.
So, the missing dynamite, by the way, was found a week later in like a national park just 30 miles away. So he didn't even have anything to do with that. Kritzer is fucking dead. So George hears about what happens, and he immediately makes his way out to Giant Rock. When he arrived, all of Kritzer's stuff had been looted. Like, they took everything from inside the rock and they stole his fucking car.
I mean, what the fuck was left inside the fucking rock?
The only thing that was in there was a big fucking blood stain across the wall.
Oh.
That's not even me being funny. That's just actually the only thing left in there.
But I mean, like, to loot, what the fuck like, wouldn't have been blown to smithereens with all that dynamite in the first?
Oh boy, I could get some. I could get some used dynamite.
I'm sorry. I just think the idea of used dynamite is really funny. You just have this broken little red stick.
It's like you can this is something you can do at home, kids. If you take a full thing of firecrackers and you put it over a garbage can and you have like a stick, it'll pop and they'll fall in there and they'll all explode and it's really loud and cool and it hurts your eardrums. So it's kind of like that, but you can do that with dynamite if you're not a fucking pussy.
Ted, don't say that.
So George is like, oh man, this kind of sucks. But he wanted to continue the meditation rituals that Kritzer had showed him to talk to aliens, because that was actually what they were doing. They weren't gay in the desert.
Okay, so they actually were trying to talk to aliens, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They would meditate and try to tune into different frequencies to speak with aliens and receive telepathic communications. So
okay.
So George
Wait,
is like,
I have another question. I'm sorry, I started bringing it up. Is this before or after the fucking UFO sighting in Roswell?
what year? I don't remember what year Roswell was. I think it was like.
Because I thought it wasn't until like the 50s.
Hold on, this is a professional podcast. What year Roswell? 47.
Oh, okay.
So this is after Roswell.
Okay, perfect.
This is like right after Roswell. This is like 47, 48.
Because I figured it had something to do with Roswell, because that's when people really started, like, people kind of assumed, like, aliens and shit like that, but that's when people got, like, really into it in America. That's why I just wanted to, like, piece it together in my head, you know?
So George wanted to get the land of Giant Rock, and apparently the land defaulted to the Bureau of Land Management, which I guess you can't just, like, buy land from the government. What they used to do for the Western stuff, because they just really didn't want Native Americans to get any fucking land, I guess, is if you put gumption and like hard work into the land and you just did something, you invested your own money into it, they just be like, yeah, here you go, man. I don't give a fuck. Here, take the land.
So by making his little house in the ground, he thus owned the land, right?
He did not. Kritzer should have. That should have qualified him. But I think because he was German, they didn't give it to him.
Ah.
So George is like, hey, I want this land. They're like, well, I don't know, do something with it. Whatever, man. Stop talking to me. So he builds a diner called the Millie's Diner there, and he soups up the airport and gets it all fancy and up to code, and actually gets it registered as a real airport. Because before it wasn't. It was just a strip of land in the desert. So then they give him it, and he's like, oh, sweet, I got it. So then he moves his family out to Giant Rock. Now, Alex, you're probably thinking, oh, they moved Millie's Diner must have had like a bedroom, must have been like a house or something.
Oh, no.
No, they lived under the rock. It was him, his wife, and his 3 daughters. The mother-in-law and sister-in-laws didn't want to move out to live under a rock in the desert. I don't know why. It just seemed like
Okay. Is how Patrick Star is this? Is this like the episode where Patrick has his family, his mother and father show up, where he has like multiple fucking rooms in it, or is this like one of the gags where it's just one little square?
It is 2 rooms. There is a bedroom and there is a living room, and that is it.
Okay.
So he's living under the rock now. Him and his family are living under the rock. And George is continuing to meditate under this rock. So a few years pass, it's 1952, and he actually gets direct contact.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
So he starts speaking with several badly named sci-fi aliens from across the solar system. Names like Kletark, Simba, and I don't know how to pronounce this one. It's Blaau. So I think it's Blaau.
Blaau.
These aliens are part of the realms of Schare, and we're here to warn the mortal humans of Shan, aka the Earth, away from self-extinction. This, by the way, remember too, this is 52. This is like the start of the alien, like ufology stuff. So these ideas that sound kind of cliche and like, oh yeah, okay, sure, Alien Federation, blah blah blah. This is where these things came from.
All
Like
right.
this time period. So each of the aliens would give George these Nostradamus like predictions that he wrote in his book called I Wrote on a Flying Saucer, which, oh fuck, I read that book and
How long is
it
that
is
book?
a fucking slog. It is only 50 pages, but it felt like I read all the fucking Lord of the Rings again, dude. So George is pretty out there, right? He's
Okay.
out there meditating, but even he was like, all right, come on. This might not actually be aliens. This might be me kind of doing whatever, getting a little funky out in the desert. But after each message, there would be something weird, right? So Blatu tells George that Sean, the Earth, would be getting a good shake. And then 2 days later, there's a huge earthquake that hit the West Coast. You know, okay, whatever. Once, whatever. You broken clock, right twice a day. But then Oblau of the 60-second projection seventh wave of the realms of Schare, every single one of these in the book is prefaced with that, like a military aeronautics thing where there
Okay.
was an extra 3 sentences of just their military rank. Oh god, I hated it so much. But he told George the Pentagon will soon have much to muddle over, and that they were going to give this globe a buzz. And then over the next few weeks, the Pentagon scrambled the jets, and no one knew why, and then it was because there was a bunch of UFOs seen around the Washington, D.C. area. And he's like, okay, all right, I'm convinced. So he keeps talking with these aliens, and he writes a second book called The Council of the Seven Lights. He talks about how they're basically like a Star Trek Federation. Once an alien race gets to a certain level, we will welcome them to join us, but we have to stop them from exploding themselves. It's like Space United Nations, right?
Okay.
The aliens would communicate long distance using special frequencies that travel through space without being, blocked by asteroids and blocked by whatever. Like, certain wavelengths, certain frequencies. Uh, so the reason they're reaching out is that Ashtar, the alien from Venus who leads all waves and all projections of the realms of Schare, needed to tell George that the people of Earth need to stop testing the hydrogen bomb. If humans do not stop, all the hydrogen across the planet could combust, and the Earth would tear itself apart, just like Mars did.
Okay. So, what was this guy's name again? Remind me. It was George, right?
George Van Tassel.
Okay, I think George might be onto something here. No,
so
George is kind of making sense right now, bro.
So his reasoning for the hydrogen bomb, the thing that they told him, is that hydrogen is a living element. It is the most basic element, right? It's, atomic number 1. It's what everything is made out of. And if you blow that up, the hydrogen will notice, right? And then will like all combust at once. And then your planet is just fucked. Like you're going to detonate a hydrogen bomb and it's going to cause a chain reaction. It's bad. It's not good.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Okay. So obviously he's fucking insane. But something about like the way he's doing this sounds like a setup or like you're talking to one of the crazy people in a fucking video game, but everything they say is a complete lie. Thus, it is actually true. You just have to decode it. I feel like he's onto something and we just don't get it yet.
We're not on his level.
I swear to God, if it's revealed that there was life on Mars and they nuked themselves, I'm gonna fucking come back to this goddamn episode. Just like Mars did.
So I tried to read his second book, The Council of the Seven Lights. I got to the table of contents and I stopped. I'm gonna read you the 10 chapters, okay?
All right.
1. The Missing Link. 2. Invisible Gears. 3. The Sons of God. 4. Trinity of Infinity. 5. Unseen Scales. 6. The Angels of Space. 7. Prodigal Mother. 8. I'm going to spell this out. I don't know how to pronounce this. TmethuselaH. Thamuzala's Toy. I think it's Thamuzala. 9. The Sword of Damocles. 10. The False Chariot.
Okay, so I know Lovecraft is already dead at this point in history, but I think he really liked his work.
He makes some very bold claims. Some of them being that in the Bible, it's not angels. That's actually just a mistranslation of the word alien, which I don't think that's how. I don't think that's how it works, George. He also said that with Adam and Eve, Adam was a man and Eve was a beast, and that we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden because we performed bestiality.
Okay, just
yeah.
So I'm just gonna say it. In my head, I pictured like a furry thing for a second to be funny, but then he said bestiality. I'm like, oh, okay.
Fuck.
I was all right. Okay. Let me breathe a little bit. I thought when you said the whole alien bit about angels, I thought for a minute, I was like, I swear to God, if this comes back to that video game, Water Womb World, I'm gonna fucking shit myself.
So, now we're on to the whole reason I even started this episode, which is the Integratron, the time machine in the desert. So, 1953, August 24th. George is in the desert doing desert things. There's a big commotion at the airport. George and his son-in-law go to investigate, and the son-in-law is still alive. The son-in-law and the grandson. You ever see? You know how there's like different forms of Pokemon, right? Like the Alolan forms and the Galar forms.
Yeah.
His son-in-law looks like the desert form of Uncle Si from Duck Dynasty. So he's like, "Hey, man, you should go check this out, father-in-law." And they go watch. They both see an alien UFO come down, land at their airport, and just fucking yoink George. He just bloop disappears and appears inside of the alien spaceship.
Wait, all right, hang on. Back up. So they both saw this happen to George.
Yes, George, and then his son-in-law, Desert Uncle Si.
Okay, so George and the son-in-law saw George himself get abducted by aliens, right?
Well, I mean, George would see it because he is George.
I'm putting them both in the scene in my head. I'm just trying to math it out. Okay.
They don't grab Uncle Si, though. They just grab George.
Just George. And this was in front of the airport, or was it in the airport?
At the airport. Because this is an outdoor airport. It's just a landing strip.
Yeah,
but the alien UFO shows up, yoinks George, and he's on there.
Okay.
And George sees 3 aliens. They were all exactly 5'6". They were white, and they spoke in a transatlantic accent. Okay. So they were doing like the like, "Hello, George, and welcome to our ship."
Ted? Yeah. When you say they were white, do you mean that they were pale or that they were white people?
He explicitly described them as Caucasian. He described them as good-looking Caucasian men.
How do you know they're aliens then?
Because they told him.
Oh, okay.
One of them said, "My name is Solganda, and I would like to welcome you to my craft."
Hello, my white friend.
Hello, my fellow Caucasian. How are you?
Oh, it's a good thing you have white skin, or else we would have had a problem here.
After I got this far, even I was like, okay, this dude's a yakko quacko wacko. But he went on CBS and had an interview about this. It was like an after midnight thing where the guy, you could find the video on YouTube. It's a really fun interview where he's like, "It is now 12 o'clock and all good children should be in their beds, and we're going to talk about the aliens." So the interviewer guy is like throwing him a bunch of he's throwing him curveballs. He's like hardlining him. He's explaining, what happened when he was abducted, and he's very genuine. He's very calm about it. He explains things. He's like, "This is what happened." He doesn't say, "Oh, I was abducted by aliens and then they probed me." He doesn't say anything outlandish. He just describes exactly what he saw and exactly what they told him, which was that they travel faster than light by changing the speed of light. What's so wrong about that? You just change a few values in the code, bro. You just use cheat engine.
Okay. The reason I'm laughing so hard at that is I'm picturing like they're in the little spaceship and they're like, hey, check this out. Hits the fucking tilde key and the fucking command prompt pops up. SV underscore cheat underscore speed of light underscore 0.
Hey, how do I disable these contracts in TF2? They're really annoying. Hey, can you pull up the Valve wiki? So they're like, hey, this is our spaceship. We communicate by using the wavelengths, right? And he's like, listen, I'm going to tell you the formula to build a time machine because...
Of course he is.
You guys are kind of cool, okay? You're not bad, but you don't live long enough. Once you start to learn a thing or two, you kick the bucket. So they told him what he needed to know to build the Integratron to give humans access to time travel. He also says in the same video, the same interview, that a friend of his named Charlie Artz used this technology that he's using to build the Integratron, because he's actively making it as he's doing the interview here.
What is the Integratron again?
I'll get to it. Don't worry.
Okay, sorry, you're building it up. So, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're building up the fucking beast that's bigger than a battleship.
Yeah,
you remember that?
So he mentions that his friend Charlie Artz, who was an ex-Marine, was using the same technology to project a TV show that aired years and years ago by using 50,000 volts of electricity. I think that's a lot of electricity. I don't know. I'm not an electricity scientist, but 50,000 volts sounds like it's a lot. He was explaining to the guy, he's like, it's much like a, well, I don't think he said this. I think one of the articles I read said this, but he said it was like a VHS tape where things that happen are imprinted on frequencies and electricity and all that bullshit. And if you can mimic those exact conditions, it'll just bloop. It'll just show up. And he said that this guy, Charlie Artz, did this and pulled up a TV show that has been off the air for like 10 years. Now, I tried to find Charlie Artz because he was a Marine. Okay, you can look that up. That's public information. I found 2 places on the internet that mention Charlie Artz. 1, the YouTube comments of the interview, and 2, a paranormal forum where the top thread was, do you think Donald Trump is a time machine? So, yeah.
Okay.
Nothing else.
So Charlie Artz isn't real then?
I don't think Charlie Artz was real. Or he may have been, and the FBI fucking blacked him out.
Gotta keep that time machine locked away.
Do you want to know the formula for the time machine?
Hit me with it.
F equals 1 over T.
Okay.
That's all it is. That's just the formula for frequency. Frequency equals 1 cycle over however much time.
Okay, I'll be honest though, I gotta be honest. This guy, he's kind of rad. I actually kind of like the idea, what like ideas he's writing, but I have to know, was he making this all up, or were a bunch of movies all playing at the same time and he just saw them and got ideas? Because if he's making this up, he's got some really good, like, sci-fi mind. He would have been a fucking genius if he wrote, like, these as, like, actual stories, and not just, like, crazy fucking, like, biographies.
So there is, and some of the research I found, there were ideas around that area of California that were coming from Nikola Tesla and George Laikovsky, which I'll mention those in a little bit as to what he kind of what he might have. Much like my client Joey Buckley in the upcoming trial of Joseph Robert Buckley, parallel thinking, or may have pulled it from the zeitgeist. But yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. So he had his formula, he had all this, and all he needed to build the time machine was some money. Just like Kritzer, he refuses to work a normal fucking job. Apparently, he just wants to live in a rock in the desert. So his wife, she ran that diner, right? But diner money is not build a time machine money, right?
My bad, sorry.
So George's, his interviews goes public and he gets really, really popular. People start writing him letters, start joining his newsletter. and he slowly kind of gets some funds to start building the Integratron. And one of his major moneymakers is that he started the very first UFO convention at Giant Rock, which, man, from all the pictures I saw, that seems like it would have been a fucking grade A convention. You go out into the desert, there's zero shade, there's no water, you just gotta piss behind the rock, and then you just have people going up there and talking about UFOs while you're out there in these, like, the 50s, 40s clothes where you're like, the vapors were still a thing around that time, Aleks.
The vapors.
He has all these people here, and people are like, "Oh yeah, George, you're pretty poggers." So he gets this idea. He's like, "Aha! I'm gonna open up the College of Universal Wisdom to spread the word of the Council of the Seven Lights." Basically, the Council of the Seven Lights can be summarized as, "Hey, we should stop trying to kill each other. That's bad. We should improve society somewhat. You know, this society of the council is a society free of wars, divorce, and taxes."
Okay.
That's communism.
Okay. Tad, I have a question, and I hope you don't give me the correct answer. Is this the guy that made Scientology?
No, but that dude is a riot.
Because this is all, like, starting to come together in my head here. Was the guy who made Scientology part of this guy's weird fucking College of Universal Wisdom?
Very possible. Very possibly was, because this was like an established thing. Like, didn't have like a campus, but you would join a newsletter, right? And you would get pamphlets. The FBI, they had that file on Kritzer and Giant Rock, right?
Yeah.
And when they heard, "Oh, hey, we're going to make a society free of wars and taxes, and we think our current society is not the most perfect thing ever," they just went, "Socialists, communists, we need to watch these people."
Okay.
So the FBI started hiring informants to infiltrate the college and the UFO conventions to be like, "Hey, the fuck's going on in here?" So an informant from the nearby Marine base wrote in, and this is in, you can read this on the FBI website. They have like a vault where you can look through the file, which, by the way, the file is 316 pages.
Just this convention or the whole file?
On George.
Oh my god.
So, what this Marine wrote is, "The Giant Rock Group has constructed a so-called College of Universal Wisdom located at Giant Rock Airport that is teaching and advocating the overthrow of the U.S. government by publishing literature which aids communist indoctrination and could provide a revenue stream for the party." This dude just wrote, like, I cut that in half. That was a very long run-on sentence.
Okay, so, he was completely bullshitting and just needed an excuse to go take these guys down.
No, Aleks. See, because he had another one as well.
Oh.
The same guy also said that the nearby satellite site that they had for the college, which was like an actual physical location that people would do like rituals and, meditate at, was basically pizza-gating illegal communist immigrants through the basement, and that the windows were slitted to allow the college to aim guns through them to kill Americans who passed by on the highway.
Okay. Once again, he was bullshitting. I guess what I'm imagining happened is that he went to the alien convention. He didn't like it and wanted to get rid of these guys because suddenly he's turning into a giant asshole. He was upset that he didn't get his Choco Taco.
Sorry, man, we're out of Choco Tacos. We just had George Van Tassel get the last one.
George Van Tassel. It's Dan versus it's FBI agent versus
Choco Taco.
God damn. All right, so how long until these guys are taken out like the fucking first guy with the dynamite?
So the Integratron was made without metal, right? Because if it had metal in it, it would heat up and burn the fucking thing to the ground. So the way the Integratron worked was that he made this like perfect dome. It had sacred geometry, much like the pyramids. And it had copper wires that went around the entire like circumference of the building. And the way it would kind of work is that they would charge those wires with a shitload of electricity. And then there was a center beam that also would have something in it. We don't know what it was, and I'll mention why later. But he had the copper in the building. You would go in there, and you would walk 270 degrees and then walk out. And it would refresh your body. It was kind of a clickbait YouTube thing to say that it was a time machine because you really didn't travel back through time. The theory, apparently, George's intent is that the Integratron was going to be basically like a laboratory where here's a setup where we can do these tests where we find these electric frequencies by fucking with the charge on these copper coils or meditating and doing all this stuff inside of it, setting up the perfect acoustics, all this kind of new age bullshit, right? So it kind of worked. The ideas behind it are, well, with the copper stuff, that's actually how a wireless phone charger works. Is that if your phone accepts it, it has like it has a coil of some kind of conductive metal in it. You set it on the wireless charger, and then there's just electricity going through both of them, and it's able to actually connect. This was the wireless energy that Nikola Tesla was fucking with.
Okay.
And then there's this guy, George Lakhovsky. And both George Lakhovsky and Tesla, their ideas were like spreading in South California at the time. So George might have just absorbed these. I don't know if he intentionally went, I'm going to pass this off as my own, or if he just kind of got it all mixed up and jumbled together, right? Lakhovsky's gimmick, I guess, for lack of a better word, he believed and showed proof that certain cells in your body will oscillate when they are healthy. They have free will, but they choose to oscillate.
Oscillate?
Oscillate is basically you have a fixed position, but you move left, right, left, right, left, right.
Okay.
Like a fan, an oscillating desk fan.
Hey, I got it.
So Lakhovsky was like, hey, when your cells stop oscillating, they die. If they oscillate a lot and are continuously oscillating, your body tends to be healthier. What he did, this is like the only one I could find. I didn't look very hard at Lakhovsky. He used this theory to cure a young woman's excessive flatulence by making her wear a metal belt and pumping electricity through it to like fix her oscillating cells.
Okay, so I was hoping it was going to be like cancer or something, but I guess curing your farts is pretty much up there too in importance.
I mean, it fixed her gut. Whatever was wrong with it, it kind of either that or it just passed. I don't know. It's the 50s. Who gives a shit? She does.
Okay, so let me put the scene. He straps her down with a belt and just zaps the shit out of her.
Puts her in the electric chair. Okay. That would void your bowels.
Okay. I'm sorry. I have to harp on this one more time. You ever seen like old movie versions of Dr. Frankenstein where he cranks the fucking lever? And now, witness! Just zaps her and she just fucking explodes.
She leaves a giant blood stain across the cave wall.
Okay. So you said
her like a Minecrafter in his desert cave.
Okay. So you mentioned this is a building, right?
Yes.
Okay. So where is this in like location, like distance to the rock that they live at?
So there's Giant Rock, California, and then like just a couple miles away is the Integratron.
Okay,
it's in Landers, California, which is also the only area around the Mojave. There's two places in the world where Joshua trees grow, and that is it is Jerusalem and it is that area of the Mojave.
Really? Because I actually went through that area of the Mojave a couple times. Yeah, I saw them on my way to fucking Sherry's Ranch back with that. Call back to that old ass episode. But so that means I was relatively close to this fucking this monolith of fucking human ingenuity, the Integratron. Okay, so I have to ask: are there pictures of the Integratron?
Yes, and the Integratron is actually still. You can go to the Integratron. It's still operating.
It's a
you
building,
can actually
right?
go there and do shit.
So this is a whole building with a bunch of copper around it, right?
It's inside the walls, circling around and around and around. The reason he
Yeah.
couldn't have any metal in the construction is that it would get so hot the
Yeah,
nails
yeah,
would
yeah.
cause it to
Yeah,
The copper doesn't for whatever reason.
I'm just I'm making a fucking map in my head where this is all going down.
So yeah, George was like, "Hey, this is going to be a way that we can study. We can use this as like some kind of technique to try and learn how to do what Charlie Artz in big quotations did with that TV program." So the FBI was interested in this because number one, they had that file in George already. Number two, George kept claiming that this could generate free energy by working with people, meditating and doing all that stuff. And also, he would brag about how when the Integratron was completed, it could generate enough power to wipe out Southern California if it malfunctioned.
Oh, yeah, I wonder why the FBI was interested in that.
So the FBI at this point is now like, okay, we got to get really involved in this. So they show up and they start kind of harassing him. They interview his wife, and she tells them that at Giant Rock they were practicing a metaphysical religion based on the occult principle of thought transference, which I'm sure really made them go, "Oh yeah, no, these people are totally on the ball. This is fine. Definitely not. We need to assign 17 agents."
17 agents? So they're all undercover?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying that as a goof, but there were at least there was Special Agent John Malone, and then at least one or two others. So, she also told them besides just telling them they're using occult principles, she told them a story about how George had everyone in the college meditate at once and focus their energy on him like he was doing the fucking spirit bomb to try and contact Ashtar again, the leader of the realms of Schare.
Mm-hmm.
He made contact, and then the guy relayed the message back, which was salutations, and then like a paragraph and a half of bullshit. So I'm just not even going to say that.
I'm not even going to say that.
Through the combined power of all the waves, we will ray you a substance that will be very advantageous to your physical body. So they're all sitting there, meditating, got their eyes closed, and then a warm liquid flowed across all of their bodies and dripped onto the floor. So it sounds like George just pissed all over him. I like George, but I wouldn't put it past him.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just.
Alright, so.
I'm sorry. Hold on. I have to ask. I have to ask. I have to ask this question.
Okay.
Ted, was he peeing on them? Just tell me straight.
Hold on. Let me take a. I don't have a coin, so I'm gonna roll this 20-sided Magic the Gathering Paladine promotional die. Yes.
Oh man, sounds like the army base in here.
Oh, it smells like enlightenment.
Okay, I'm sorry. Continue.
So this is where things get more fucky. Okay. So Desert Uncle Si, and now this is from the documentary I watched. There's Desert Uncle Si, and then George's grandson, who looks 1-to-fucking-1, the exact same as the Boomer meme.
How old is George?
George? Well, George was he died in 78. He was born in 1920 something.
Okay, so George's grandson is still around, while George himself is the one who got blown the fuck up, right? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
George's grandson is the Boomer, and the Desert Uncle Si was his son-in-law.
Okay.
So they claim that men in black would show up and visit Giant Rock and root around until they would get shooed away. Like George would have to come out with a fucking shotgun and tell him to get the fuck away from his property and stuff.
Okay.
They would follow George when he was in the desert with their black vans and like drive him off the road and shit. They would follow him in town with like, it was some weird shit. Like, do you know much about the Men in Black stuff? The phenomena?
I assume you mean the real life thing, not the fucking movies.
Yeah. The Men in Black are like, whenever there's weird paranormal stuff, there's usually these odd people that are dressed in like black with like a suit, with like a hat, and there's always something a little weird about them. So these people started harassing him, and they're like, "Hey, George, you need to stop." He would tell them to go fuck themselves. At one point, they apparently showed up at night and threatened George to stop. He told them no, and then they fucking took out a pistol at point blank and tried to shoot George. George ended up, he was not hurt, but there was a huge chip in the rock behind him. So this was point blank too. So there was the gun, George, and then the rock.
Uh-huh.
So whatever reason, George didn't get shot there. I don't know. Maybe Solganda was looking out for him.
Okay, but there is a bullet hole. Like there was like a chip in the rock. This actually happened then? We have proof of the shooting?
According to Desert Psy and George's boomer grandson.
Okay, they didn't show the rock then. I was just making sure.
I mean, it was this would have taken place years and years ago. It would have eroded by then.
Yes.
So, the harassment and the desert lifestyle living under a rock either caused his wife to divorce him or she died of cancer. I couldn't find out which. No one seemed to really care about his wife, which I think is a little bit rude. Either way, George kind of doubles down on his books in the Integratron now. Because he's facing resistance. He's, the aliens, when he meditates, are like, "Yo, George, you are fucking great. You are like Moses, dude." He actually made that comparison in one of his books where he said, God gave Moses the plans for the tabernacle, much like these aliens gave me the plans for the Integratron, which is a little egomaniacal, but that's fine, George.
Wait, hold on. So George is building the Integratron, but I thought George died with the dynamite.
Frank was the guy who died with the dynamite.
Okay.
Frank was the underground desert Nazi.
Okay. I got a little mixed up there. Okay, thank you. So George is the one still alive writing all the books. Got it. Okay, good.
Yeah, they have very generic names. George, Frank.
Yeah, that's why I got a little confused. Sorry, audience. I got your backs out here making sure we're keeping track with the story.
So now George, he's meeting with his college, and he's starting to endorse some like weirder studies because he's doubling down. He's going really deep into it. Studies like saying that you can tune into other people's frequencies by touching their blood, which thank God that didn't go much further than that, because I could easily see this turning into like a fucking Jim Jones thing where he forces people to like give him like a blood oath or something. But luckily George was like a normal guy.
Okay.
He also believed that cabbages can mourn the death of fellow plants.
Okay.
That you could keep a shaving razor sharp by putting it underneath an inverted pyramid.
That's oddly specific, but okay.
I think because of the sacred geometry of a pyramid, because it's like a big important thing. Sacred geometry is a whole fucking the Integratron works on that, where it's like this is like sacred and holy numbers. If you ever, and I'm sure this there's a high chance you'll do this, if you ever get into like real fart sniffing level of college math, you start running into this kind of shit where people are like praising like the degrees of a circle and shit. He believed that certain breathing patterns could make you levitate, and that for LA to get rid of its smog problem, all they would need to do is put 7 pyramids around the outside of the city.
Of course. Why wouldn't they just need to do that?
My favorite ones that he claimed during this kind of weird time is that when he saw Star Wars in 1977, he wrote George Lucas a letter saying, like slyly hinting like, it seems like we both know about the Force. Wink. He would brag that his name, and I assume jokingly, that his name was double charged because it was GE and then GE at the end because it was George, like General Electricity.
Oh, okay, asshole.
And then my favorite one is that, so I already told you that, Angel was just a misspelling of alien, but the Ark of the Covenant was actually spelled ARC because it's all electrical. So, yeah, George, at this point in time, now the FBI file is 316 pages long.
Okay. Well, what do they actually have on him, though, other than he's fucking crazy? Like, he hasn't done anything bad. He's just been an idiot.
he's been tapping into info that he should not be messing with, Alex. He's going to get, if this works, the Integratron will provide free energy, which is not something that, the kind of theory about it is that this free energy was something they didn't want out. They didn't want humans having access to time travel, yada yada, Men in Black, that kind of conspiracy angle stuff, right?
They're gonna have free energy. Bullshit, they will.
So George gets remarried. He marries this new lady, right? And in 1978, he announces that he is going to finish the Integratron. He's like, I have it done. I have everything with me to finish it. He sends out, hey, every single major news organization, come check me out. He drives out from the desert to go to Pasadena to go and have a big televised live interview, right?
Uh-huh.
And he stays the night in a hotel. It was him and his second wife. And he suffers a heart attack and dies.
What?
He had never had any health issues like that. But all of a sudden, he has a heart attack. He dies. All of his shit that he had with him disappears. All of his paperwork.
What?
All the remaining pieces of the Integratron are gone. And his body is cremated before Desert Uncle Si or the rest of his family even know that he's dead. The second wife has him cremated immediately.
Are you telling me the second wife was a fucking plant?
Desert Si said that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he said that she had 2 previous marriages, and both of them ended with her husband dying. So it's possible that she was a plant by the FBI after his first wife died or divorced him, and then she slipped him something, had him cremated before they could test the body, took all the shit, gave it to the FBI. And when George's kids went to the Integratron, they went there, right after the funeral service, like a day or two later, looted. Just like Kritzer. All the shit in there was gone. George's fucking car was stolen too, just like Kritzer's.
Are you telling me the FBI actually looted this crazy person's fucking passion project? What the fuck?
It's very possible that George was actually onto something.
I doubt he was right about anything, but this was like, what, the 70s? I'm sure the FBI was just way more fearful back then. But I also don't believe that he was actually, like, right about anything. I think he was just a crazy person. I just think 1970s, like, the 1980s FBI was just a lot more incompetent. Well, I'm a lot more like, shoot first, ask questions later kind of style back then.
His boast about the thing blowing up Southern California could have really spooked some people.
Remember, you say that after his file mentioned that he's a fucking commie trying to take over the government. So that again, we know that wasn't true, but they don't. So you put 2 and 2 together from their perspective, ice them. I genuinely think they killed this guy.
The Integratron now is owned by 3 eccentric sisters, and they use it for sound baths, where you go there, you pay a substantial amount of money, and they will rub quartz on a bowl and make your body feel good for the vibrations.
Okay.
And also you can record music videos there because it has perfect acoustics. Except it is right next to a fucking road, and they say on their website you could be charged by the hour to record here, and we cannot guarantee that you won't have cars in your audio.
So, what a waste of good acoustics, by the way.
Also, it has an amazing gift shop. There is a Integratron CD. It's closed because of COVID, sadly, and you can't bring your dogs. Also, there's no picnic area. But you can buy really fun socks that say, I went to the Integratron.
Okay. I need to be professional. I had to look at what this thing looks like.
I'll have an Imgur album like we did before that'll have a bunch of relevant images. The sources I pulled from here.
That's what it looks like. It's a fucking dome.
Yep. Sasha Archibald wrote a really good article that I pulled a lot from. Kim Stringfellow also wrote a very good article. And then just various other places. I rewrote this fucking thing 4 times. I couldn't find a good angle. This one took so long to come out because originally this was going to be about the Sicilian mafia, and then it turned into something else. It turned into something else, and it kept fizzling. And I finally found this one, and at first I was like, the Integratron doesn't seem that interesting. Then I saw one line about, I think it was underground desert Nazi, and I fucking did. You know that fucking scene from Django where it like zooms in on Leonardo DiCaprio? He goes, "You will." It was that. Where it's just what? So yeah, this was a fun one. Man, George. I don't think he was a cook, or a crook, whatever. A cook or a crook. I think he was genuine, and the UFO conventions that he held were a platform for people to talk about weird shit that you really couldn't talk about back then. You couldn't. If we were in the 50s and 60s and I just walked up to you, Aleks, and said, "Hey, you want to talk about UFOs?" You would have me in an arm lock and I'd be in fucking prison for being like a crazy person, right?
All right.
The Cold War was happening around this time too, and that made people real fucking nervous. And all this kind of wacky UFO stuff kind of gave people an outlet for their paranoia and stuff, you know? Without George, the UFO world probably wouldn't exist in the way it does now. His UFO conventions made it like a social thing. You could have friends and also talk about UFOs. So, George is cool. I hope it was all a misunderstanding and he was not iced with a heart attack gun, which, by the way, is a very real fucking thing that the CIA had in the 80s.
What?
So, legit, you can Google it. There is like, it came up in a court case. It's like a little dart that shoots, it ejects into you and then gives you a fucking heart attack. And it just leaves a tiny little dot. So it is 100% a real thing. He could have been heart attack gunned.
Oh my god, he was heart attack gunned by his fucking plant wife.
Speaking of plant wife, as we mentioned before in the No Stupid Questions with Audrey, you can find the podcast here on YouTube, iTunes, Google Podcast, Spotify. There's a Twitter, a Discord, a Patreon. Someday we'll do another No Stupid Questions. Those are really fun. I think we just haven't been in the mood for it. There's a big backlog of questions, so we'll do it at some point.
Hell yeah.
They're very, very fun. Do you have any last things you want to say about George Van Tassel or Frank Kritzer before we finish out the episode, Aleks?
I'm kind of curious. Okay, I have to ask another question about George. So they looted all the stuff, burned everything. What did they do about his books? Were those too dangerous as well?
His books had already been released. He self-published them and then sold them at a
Okay, here's my question. Would you recommend his books?
Fuck no. Those things are impossible to read.
Okay.
They are fucking awful, dude. It is like reading a math textbook. All right, good night, everyone.